and we're here today to talk about discovery, the ugly cousin or stepsister of bail reform, right? We always talk about bail reform, but we talk a lot less about discovery. We're also very honored to be joined by a friend and a district attorney who believes, like this conference does, that criminals should be held to account for their actions. That people who rob, rape, murder, steal, assault, that there should be repercussions and penalties, and that, I know this might sound crazy, but that some of those people belong in jail. And she has done a great job representing and prosecuting for the 5th largest DA's office in the state. Nassau County, we're joined by Nassau County DA Annie Donnelly, who I was just talking to her about. I remember hearing about her back when a lot of the press here in Albany sort of had anointed Todd Kaminsky as the next DA in Nassau County. And you might be wondering who that is. And it's because he never got there. Annie Donnelly did, and we're very grateful she did. But she's done a great job, and she has joined us to talk about discovery reform. And again, this is something that I think a lot of people, meaning New Yorkers, may not even still really understand what happened. But it was done at the same time as bail back in 2019. And now 5 years, or I guess almost 6 years into it, the governor and even some Democrats have said we need to reform, we need to change discovery. It's resulting in way too many felony cases being outright dismissed, charges dropped, because DA's offices cannot meet the arbitrary and ridiculous timeframes that discovery sets out. But the ironic thing is this conference, many of the members who are still behind me today, back in 2019, including Senator Lanza, our deputy, who debated this bill on the floor, we said all the things that Democrats are saying today, we said it 6 years ago. We said it before discovery was the law. We said this would happen. And it took the governor and it took the Democrats, at least some, 6 years to even come to that same conclusion. And it took how many thousands of cases, tens of thousands around the state, how many felons who would otherwise be in jail, how many dangerous people who would otherwise be held to account are roaming out there today simply because a prosecutor's office could not meet the time frames. And again, you're talking about, in some of these cases in Manhattan, in Brooklyn, in Nassau, in Suffolk, you're talking about thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of cases a year that they have to work through. And they do the best job they can, but this law made her job more difficult. She took an oath to protect the people in Nassau County, and discovery made that job more difficult. It made it more difficult for her to protect the people that she swore an oath. It made it more difficult for her to uphold the Constitution that she swore to uphold. And there's many more DAs just like her. Now, the governor has proposed a change to bail. I will tell you, this conference, the only reason she's proposed it is because this conference, the constant drumbeat that discovery is not working, that discovery is resulting in dangerous people being let back out. That's why she's proposing it, because she feels that it's a political problem for her as she moves into an election year. And it is a political problem for her. But it's a political problem of her own doing. It's a political problem that the Democrats have created here in Albany and in New York. We're going to continue this drumbeat. I don't think this goes far enough, but you know what? I'm a practical guy, and the DAs have signed off on it, saying that this is a step in the right direction. As my colleagues across the aisle always say, it's the first step. Everything they do is the first step. Well, this is the first step back towards sanity. This is the first step back towards making things a little more safer for New Yorkers. And it's something this conference has called for before it was the law. Before it was the law, New Yorkers should know that. We're moving back to the Republican position, the position of common sense, of safety, of understanding that there needs to be an accountability, of protecting New Yorkers. We moved away from that. The Democrats moved us away from that back in 2019, and they're still fighting. In the Senate One House, discovery was left out. The governor's proposal was left out because they still, even with the numbers, they still can't wrap their heads around that protecting people and victims, protecting victims and making sure there's justice for victims. That's the priority, not justice for perpetrators. That is not the priority of this conference, nor should it be of any elected official in the state of New York. It's certainly not Amy Donnelly's priority. Her priority is the victims, people that have been assaulted, people that have been raped, robbed, people that are victims of crime. That's her mandate. That's what she goes to work every day for. That's what this conference, that's where we keep our focus on. Unfortunately, that has not been the focus of my colleagues across the aisle, and that's how we got here. That's why we're here today. But the governor, she put this in her budget. We think it's a step in the right direction. The DAs think it's a step in the right direction. My colleagues in the Democratic Conference, I guess they don't think so. That's why it wasn't in their one house. Everything else was in their one house, to be clear. Everything else, including $17 billion more year-over-year spending. So it's not like they forgot about it. They left it out intentionally because they don't believe that making these changes to protect New Yorkers is a priority. And New Yorkers should remember that. And the governor needs to make sure, and I'm here to call on her, there should not be a budget that doesn't include her proposal on discovery. Nothing else. I don't want to water down, it's kind of already, it's like vanilla ice cream. I don't want to water down vanilla ice cream. So this is a step in the right direction. Anything less is not good enough for New Yorkers. I would have liked to have seen her go a little further, but you know what? Anything less than this, she should not sign a budget. If the budget has to be late to protect New Yorkers, so be it. So be it. And you're going to hear all the reasons why from the DA and from Patricia Canzoneri Fitzpatrick, who's a lawyer, and some of my other colleagues, Rob Rolison, who is a police officer, and Senator White, who is the mother and the wife of police officers. You're going to hear about why this law has made it more dangerous and has made it harder for the people that we ask to protect us. And so with that, I want to call up my colleague, a former police officer, and someone who was a mayor. And I can tell you as a former mayor, when you're the mayor, I would argue the big, maybe property taxes, but besides property taxes, the biggest issue you get graded on is, do people feel safe in your city? Do people feel safe? That's why Senator Myrie, who was an architect, biggest supporter of discovery and bail and less is more and clean slate. But you know what? He's running for mayor of New York, so we got to make some changes to discovery, because you want to know why? Because mayors get judged by safety way more than we do. It's just the way it goes. Mayors get judged by that.